Welcome to the Content 10X Podcast, the show where content creators learn how to harness the power of content repurposing. And now, your host, Amy Woods.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Content 10X Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and this week is a solo episode. Yep, it's just me, and I'm sharing my thoughts and experiences with regards to sharing your story in your content, why that's so important and how it can be done effectively, and also how repurposing your story for different platforms is essential. Let's talk about how sharing your story can grow your business. Now, why would anyone want to hear your story? Because your experiences, your successes, your failures, and your goals are important and hold a lot of power, whether it's to inspire people or to drive more sales or both. Now, we're not all mountain climbing, world-changing, late-working, early-rising titans, but we all have a story in us, and I promise you there are people out there who will find yours interesting, valuable, and persuasive. And if we are creating content to help grow our business, it's worth remembering that people buy from people, not broadcasts, not sales pitches. I know it sounds really cliche, but there is truth in it. Sharing your story gives potential clients and customers a sense of who you are and a reason to invest in you and your business. If they feel some affinity towards you, some form of connection, that may just be the deciding factor between choosing you over a competitor. And let's face it, when we are small businesses and competitors are industry giants, that potential for connection and intimacy can be our superpower, and we should harness it. And as well as creating content for your business, your story can serve as amazing motivation and inspiration for people following you. And I think that we should all leave the world a better place than we found it. And by encouraging people to overcome challenges, chase their dreams, or simply just see the world in a new way is one of the best things that we can do. And it's all about sharing our experiences. But what if you don't have a story? Of course you have a story. You just need to know how to tell it. So your CV is an act of storytelling. The way you introduce yourself at networking events is an act of storytelling. Even your headline on your LinkedIn profile is an act of storytelling. You're doing it already even if you don't realize it. But telling your story is a matter of reflecting on where you are now and how you got there. It's about reflecting on lessons you've learned over your career through to the lessons you learned this week or even today. And it's all simply a way of communicating. So maybe grab a pen and paper and sit down and plan the stories that you could share. So take my story, for example. On paper, I worked as a management consultant for 13 years and then started my own creative agency. But there are so many stories in there. So I've been working almost continuously with the exception of some travel since I was about 13. I put myself through university. I've got a lot to share about work ethic developed from an early age. You wouldn't believe all the jobs I've had, from being a barmaid to serving cowboys at the Calgary Stampede in Canada. An interesting fact, actually, I used to work for Greater Manchester Police, and my small department was handling the Harold Shipman inquiry, who is believed to be the most prolific serial killer in modern history. So there you go, I've had some really interesting jobs. But as I mentioned, I have a long, successful corporate career behind me. I've got so many stories to share, from working with Fortune 500 companies on huge transformation programs, mergers and acquisitions. I've been a leader of people from small teams to big workforces. I was extremely poorly back in 2016, so much so that at one point I arrived in hospital in an ambulance and I was dying. I had an emergency operation which saved my life. I had only hours to live at that point. And that period of ill health and recovery was then what led me to starting my own business. So many stories to share about moving from big corporate to tiny startup, and I've taken the professional and soft skills learned in management consultancy and applied them to my agency, building a creative team with the flexibility of remote working, all built on foundations of highly organised, streamlined, thought through processes and structures. So now you can see there's a story worth telling in there. In fact, there are so many stories. Why is your story so special? Because only you can tell your story and only I can tell mine. And there may be someone or even lots of people with a similar background to you, but no one will share the same story. Hey, just a little break from this podcast episode to ask you a question. Would you like one single place that you can go to that provides you with everything you need to be able to implement the best practices in content repurposing for your video content, your podcast episodes, and your social media content today? To help you get more value from the content that you create, get more time back, and help you reach more people than you ever thought possible. If so, then you are going to love the Content 10x Toolkit. The toolkit is full of video tutorials, templates, checklists, swipe files, step-by-step guides, and more that shows you how to repurpose your content in the best ways possible today. No more Googling, no more figuring it out yourself. We provide you with everything that you need to become a content repurposing pro. If this sounds like something that would interest you, then go check out the Content 10x Toolkit at content10x.com/toolkit. Okay, and back to this week's episode. Whether you've had 50 jobs or just one, your professional experiences and personal circumstances will have created a totally unique situation that will provide valuable lessons for somebody, but they'll never learn from them if you don't share the story. Even if your story doesn't feel unique or original, your storytelling can be. And you're the person who's going to be the least interested in your story because you've heard it before. But just because things seem obvious or normal to you, it doesn't mean they will be to other people. For example, I've got a good friend who is a medical negligence solicitor, and when we meet up and chat about how our weeks have been, she'll always shrug off her week or say it's not been that interesting. But once she shares a bit more with me, it's better than any TV show I've watched that week. So to her, it's just run-of-the-mill day-to-day things. But to me, the twists, the turns, the details that seem not so special to her are incredible to me. And I'm sure we can all think of friends who do something similar, who think what they do is not that interesting, but to you, it's amazing. So how do you go about sharing your story? Now, I think sharing your story in all the content you create is important, whether it's in your podcast episode, blog post, social media post. Finding the right way to tell your story in each medium is going to be really worthwhile. And every platform is different, so every way to share your story on each platform is unique. There's no one size fits all. From the bite-sized micro moments in stories and tweets to long form, and of course you can repurpose your storytelling as well. For example, start in the long form and then work out how you can share that story in shorter form too by breaking it down. You should check out podcast episodes 134 and 135 of the Content 10x podcast, where I share how you can take people on a journey with your content from short form on their mobile devices to long form, like listening to your podcast or reading your blog post. And I also share in episode 135 how you can compare your content to a fine dining experience, where there are lots of different courses all with different purposes. So do check those episodes out. Now, if you want to focus on one place, let's say if your clients are on LinkedIn and you are on LinkedIn, then it should be your number one choice. But LinkedIn is certainly not a platform that's used to being known for storytelling type content until now. So I think people at the moment love to see that kind of real and human content on LinkedIn. So don't shy away from storytelling on LinkedIn because you think it's not professional. Whether you're looking to secure your next client or hire the next top graduate for your company, there is no better place to reach the people that you want to reach than LinkedIn. And that's not to say that platforms other than LinkedIn aren't valuable, but for B2B, I often see they pale into comparison when it comes to sharing your story in order to grow your business. And that's the key term there, to grow your business. Not to have some likes or follows, but actually make a difference to your business. And LinkedIn has everyone from graduates at the start of their career to CEOs of large organizations. So whether you're sharing advice that you wish a younger version of you had heard, or you're discussing a big idea that needs an angel investor, sharing your story on LinkedIn is going to help you. And if you've made it this far, that kind of serves to prove my next point. Video is the best way to tell your story. There's no way I could capture your attention for this long with just a text post or a picture. And how do you start with video? Now, I want to acknowledge that it can sound really daunting if you don't usually do this, but video is so effective and it's a lot easier than you might think. So when someone first suggested that I start doing videos, I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry, but you know what? As soon as I started, I couldn't stop then. I actually look forward to jumping in front of the camera and sharing my thoughts resource and advice about content repurposing, content marketing, and so on. And just to let you know as well, I took everything that I've learned from my own experiences. I'm working with our clients at Content 10X, and I put it into the simple guide to getting started with video on LinkedIn. So it's just a free to download guide that covers all the tech that you need to get started. And there isn't actually as much as you might think. And also tips on how to talk comfortably on camera and how to catch some common mistakes before you even make them with video content. So you can get a copy of that at content10x.com/video guide. I really hope you find this useful and are feeling inspired to share your story. If there's anyone you know who does this brilliantly, then please tag your favourite storyteller in the comments below and let the world know about them. Okay, I really hope that you found this week's podcast episode useful. If you share your stories online based on being inspired by anything I said, then please do let me know. If it's on social media, tag me. I'm at Content10X on all the platforms. Also, you may have seen me share a video about this topic too. It's on LinkedIn, YouTube, and IGTV. So there's a repurposing right there for you. So if you want to check them out, head on over there. And if you want help with your content repurposing, then we offer a fully end-to-end outsourced content repurposing service here at Content 10X. So please do check it out, content10x.com. And also, if you haven't got a copy yet, then please do consider getting my book, Content 10X, More Content, Less Time at Maximum Results. It is the ultimate guide to repurposing every type of content. It's on Amazon, in paperback and Kindle, also Audible if you want the audio book. There's a few other online spots that you can get it to. Just head to content10x.com/book. Okay, all that's left to say is thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.